I'm so excited about my podcast episode today. I am joined by my guest, Xandra Hawes. How are you today?
I'm doing so good, Nikki. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on and record with me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. There's a lot of cool things to share, and I know you're passionate about helping folks and have a lot of mental health things on here. So my heart's in that place too.
Oh, good. Thanks. Can you tell the listeners who you are and about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really, really passionate about psychology, spirituality, and energy healing. And so it's really funny. I've got my two wheelhouses. I'm a psychotherapist on one realm in Colorado, where I've got a full practice there. And then I'm actually also a psychic medium as well, where I teach online root energy medicine courses, really informed by psychology. And then I do psychic medium readings for folks that are trying to connect with people or just have, our life questions. Should I buy a house here? Right? How do I
Mm-hmm.
overcome this here? So I do a lot of really cool supportive ways. Obviously, one realm's a little bit wooier sort of than others, but it's more of a holistic psychotherapy front is sort of the other wheelhouse there too. So yeah. Yeah.
How did you get into being a psychic?
Ooh. Oh,
Uh-huh.
well, I actually love sharing the background of it because I don't know if you have this. I sort of had this growing up a little bit. I was super, super empathic and really sensitive. And I just was
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed all the time by everything. And I had no idea that when you're empathic and you're sensitive, usually you have really high intuition. But a lot of times, if you're not grounded and you're not trusting and you're not neutral to what you're experiencing, it gets really discombobulating. So I was one of those kids growing up that was super overwhelmed and was pretty psychic, but was really shamed of it because no one ever said, hey, you're just picking up on things in the sphere that people aren't saying. I was like, oh, why am I sad? Because the person next to me is sad, right?
Yeah.
That kind of
I
stuff.
think
So,
I have two daughters, and I think they're both very sensitive and empathic. I think I am too.
mm,
Um, what makes someone more sensitive than
mhm.
others?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question because, like, a lot of folks, this is like the nature nurture kind of question, a way
Mm-hmm.
of like, is this human born sort of really sensitive? And I really do see that. Some folks are really, I don't know if you've heard of the term HSP before, or highly sensitive person. It's kind of like, it's almost like there's a spectrum. So if you have a highly sensitive person, and the next step up is kind of empathic, and then the next
Mm-hmm.
step up is intuitive. And so folks that are highly sensitive people might be folks that are just maybe more sensitive to their environment. That could be noise, lights,
Yeah.
touch, right? More in the physical sense. Like it's if you're the person where you're like, I'm introverted because so much energy really discombobulates me, that might be someone who's just more sensitive, but not necessarily empathic, right? So someone who's sensitive might not be able to really understand what's happening in the room. Usually when you're an empath, you know this, right? You walk into a room and there's someone who's really sad and you instantly know, you're just like, oop, that person's not having a good time, right?
Yeah.
So there's kind of levels to sensitivity, and some folks I
Mm-hmm.
feel like are really born with it, but sometimes trauma can really put us there too if we aren't really attuned to as kids, or sometimes if folks grow up in a space that's not very grounded, sometimes kids have to be hyper aware of their parents in a way, or kind of trying to assess parents or siblings needs. So sometimes people just kind of come into the world, it seems like, sensitive, and some of it depending on our households. I had a family that was very Minnesota grit kind of thing, and so I was always very attuned to kind of their um energy, but I don't consider myself coming from a home where both parents are really dysregulated in a way. So I kind of feel like I was born in with it. What do you think for you and your
Yeah.
kids? Sounds like maybe they came in pretty
Well,
sensitive.
yeah, my youngest, like, say if something is going on with me and I'm like tired, I'm stressed, or most recently my mother-in-law was sick and she's since passed, but we weren't telling them how sick she was. And they like, and I would act like, oh, everything's fine. And my youngest would say to me, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. And she's like, no, something's wrong. You seem stressed. You seem sad. Are you sad? And she's 11. And I was just like, no, I'm fine. So it's
Mm,
just, she's very good on picking up other people's energy. Even if I'm irritated, she picks up that and then she gets irritated. And she even says, I was in a good mood, but you put me in a bad mood because you're irritated. And I'm like, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
oh man. Well,
So yeah.
I kind of love that she has that much trust to tell you that, because some folks don't. There's something in our culture around, like, if you're sensing or sensitive, you're like almost like it's like this weakness sort of piece, but it's actually kind of a superpower. Like, her ability
Mm-hmm.
to tap in and see your mood means that there's healing potential for her to be able to see people at a deep level. But if she can tap into your energy, she can tap into healing frequencies at a higher piece too. So
Wow.
she can tap into nature at higher levels. She can tap into herself. So there's always this fear around, like, if we can sense other people, like we're not as strong, but it's kind of a superpower.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited for her that's her experience, if she learns how to ground it in and make sure not to take energy on, because that's the tricky part, right? Is we end up getting
Mm-hmm.
really swayed by people unless we know what's our energy. That can kind of be the difference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's actually happened to me because I'm also a yoga instructor. Um, so sometimes I don't do hands-on assist
Mhm.
because I pick up other people's energy. I've felt that. And if I have anxiety that day, I won't touch them also because I don't want to shift my energy to them.
Oh, I love how kind you are then. Sounds like maybe she gets you then around awareness and how do you regulate your own energy. It's such kindness. That seems like you're
Hmm.
that, but yeah, I see where she's getting it now that you're explaining it in terms
Oh,
of
thanks.
sensitivity.
Thank you. Um, so you also, I know I've been looking and doing research. What is a Buddhist psychology?
Yeah, good question. So Buddhist psychology, so traditional psychology is only like 100 years old. It's a really, really
Hmm.
young field, right? Where you kind of have, most people know about Freud and psychoanalysis, and kind of the root of psychology is looking at how the brain really works, kind of our cognitive processing, our emotions, our thoughts, right? How to really work through those things. And there's a lot of modalities that have come out of
Hmm.
psychology about how to really change the brain, right? And really work with emotions and things like that. And so Buddhist psychology really brings in this deep heart of awareness. They don't say this in Buddhist psychology, these are my words, so you're not going to find this quoted, but Buddhist psychology kind of has this theory that they call kind of brilliant sanity or basic goodness. And I call that soul. That's what I sort of hear when they say it. But it sort of says at the heart of every single person, just like the sun, there is this inherent goodness, this sanity, this deep compassionate tenderness. And that as we go throughout life and we have certain things that come up from us, it's kind of like the clouds. They start covering those things. And that can be certain mental distortions, that can be certain patterning, that can be certain trauma. And so no matter what happens, that deep goodness, that soulness is always there. But Buddhist psychology holds that when we're really present and we're really aware, we can allow that deep nourishment, that deep sense to arise actually in the body. So when you're working with someone from Buddhist psychology, it's almost like you're holding this goodness at the heart and you're able to see all the clouds and all the things they're working on, but it's holding someone in deep reverence in a big way. So there's a lot of deep respect that I love it. A lot of old psychology has this like kind of more sterile patient client, and it's really important as a therapist to have really good boundaries still and hold all of those things so that there's safety. But there is such deep, I have a lot of love and care for the people that I work with because they're fighting hard battles and they deserve to be seen,
Yeah.
even regardless of mistakes or certain patterns or things like that. So that's how I sort of see it. I use the word soul. They're not going to say that, but that's what I see.
Yeah. So for the past 2 years, we've been in this global pandemic, and have
Mhm.
you seen have people been coming to you more often and using the Buddhist psychology more to help? Because I feel like I know I've been diagnosed with anxiety in my teens, and the past 2 years, it kind of went out of whack a little bit again. And I'm meditating more. I'm trying to do all the healing modalities, but sometimes do need to talk to someone.
Mhm, mhm. Oh man, especially for my sensitive folks, right? And my
Hmm.
empathic folks, not only is it trying to ground your space, but it's almost being in the soup, right? Sort of this wavy soup of, are we going to be okay? You know, what do we do here? There's a lot of global anxiety. So I totally get for folks that feel that sort of rapid heartbeat, a little bit more of the earth sort of switching and changing and people's uncertainty, it does require more work because you're able to tap into those sort of places. And I do have so many folks, I would say during the sort of pandemic pieces, everyone I met with was basically online. And it was a lot around getting people to really ground in. And a lot of the psychic sort of work on the other sort of realm is called root energy medicine. And so I teach people energetic mindfulness awareness tools of how do you release that energy from a neuroscience perspective, from a psychology kind of cognitive perspective, how do we use affirmations to change the brain? And so a lot of folks were coming in, especially in psychology, I've had a lot of different chapters of who I've helped, and I worked with a lot of teens, a lot of young adults. My practice is pretty wide in terms of who I work with, but especially for the kids with school. Oh my gosh, it was just so difficult to meet everyone's learning styles. And so to really support kids in this framework of, is the earth going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? Like, how do I ground in? Like, I had kids that were very like, why do I even do school? What if there's no earth? Right? There's just this sense of how do I hold purpose? So it was so heartbreaking in a way. And so I had parents I was coaching, I had kids I was coaching, doing group family stuff, you know, doing psychic readings to help people figure out, is my business going to be okay? I mean, so much energy and care. So yeah, I am busy all the time. I'm busy all the time with all this stuff. It's continuing, but people are becoming a little bit more empowered, but a lot more folks through the pandemic, I've noticed, are becoming more open to more holistic practices. I don't know if you've noticed that too, but
I have, yes.
Right. What have you noticed in terms of people opening to it? Because I've seen a lot over here, but I'm curious in your field.
So I've been, more people are open and want to learn more about meditation and breath work, tapping and EFT. I've also been using essential oils for years, and I feel like the past 2 years, more people are asking me about essential oils. Even my parents are using essential oils now. So yeah.
So cool. Oh, I love it. Oh man. So you get to be like, hey, are you ready for the information? Can I share it with you?
Yeah, I know. I'm still trying to get, my kids will do yoga and stuff, but they don't want to do it, me teaching it, because I'm mom. So that's something, and they won't meditate yet. And I think that will just do wonders for them.
Oh, I cannot tell you how many parents I talk to, and they're like, why can't, like, the kids are sort of in that individuation. It's like they actually would benefit.
Yeah.
They actually might want to do it, but it's like, if it's with you, that it's not, you know, it's not individualistic enough for them where it feels like it's their idea sort of way. And so I can't tell you how many parents I talk to, and I'm like, your idea is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant, and they're not going to be able to hear it from you. So how do we get information in a different way? Right. Like but yeah, I love it. I can't even tell you, like, I think I wrote a blog article, or I can't remember what I did podcast wise, but I was walking through Target, and it was hilarious. I was looking for like a card from my grandmother for her birthday or something. And I walked by the art section, and there was just like a chakra coloring book. And I like paused, and, you know, chakras are 4,000 years old from different Hindu traditions and things. And I was just like, oh my God, this is nuts. It's all coming through and becoming pop culture. So my question is always like, how do we get the sacred heart of it? And as it's becoming more available, how do people learn about energy centers, and how can that actually relate to changing your brain chemistry and really grounding your space and working with anxiety and the nervous system? It's such a cool, the psychology, spirituality, and energy healing is like this hub of an intersection. I'm so excited. It's going to continue to grow, and you're seeing it, I'm seeing it. People are more available for those concepts, and it's not just woo woo necessarily anymore, which
right. Exactly. So my next question kind of, intertwines with what we were saying. Where are the overlaps in psychology and spirituality?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think spirituality, I was reading, I love Brene Brown a lot. And in one of her,
so do I.
Oh my gosh, I can't, I'm like, where is it? I was just reading some of it this morning, but not her Daring Greatly book, but Rising Strong book. I love her definition of spirituality. And her definition of spirituality really is this deep, sacred connection, knowing that we're not separate, sort of this sense of when I have an interaction, it actually really impacts that person, which if we go on like a science level, kind of is just reiterating that we're all energy and everything we're doing is exchanging energy, right? In this way. And so what's interesting is a lot of people on the spiritual realm, it is this, if we take that definition, this sort of sacred sense of we're all connection, by you doing your healing work in a psychological way, it's actually creating a better, healthier world where everyone can actually feel safe. So, by you offering yoga or helping people really ground into their space, I think about, I have a decently long commute to work. And sometimes I learn so much just by driving in traffic about myself and about other people. And I was like, wow, when I have a really good morning, I am the driver that drives really slow in the right lane, right? I let people pass. I just let people in. There's this sense of I have enough space for me and I trust me and stuff. And then on the other days where I'm rushing around, there's this energy of not feeling grounded. And I can see how I impact other people by not being as generous, by, not signaling to someone when they let me in. There's such this cool way that on a spiritual level, when we're really grounded and rooted into our sacred space, our interactions with other people are kinder and gentler, and we're able as a group to collectively move through hardships in more of a way where we can see each other and we can care about each other. It feels more like a group versus at odds, sort of in a way. Yeah.
I usually try to meditate when I first wake up. I wake up early for work and I meditate, and then I start work and then get the kids up, and my husband just gets up and does his own thing and goes out the door. And on the mornings when the kids are fighting or can't find something to wear and they have nothing to wear, and we're rushing, I have to come back home and meditate again, to get just myself grounded again. So I'm not dealing with clients and work or angrily emailing or something like that. So I really agree with that. How do we connect with our spirit guides? I do this walking meditation now, and in it says, call on your spirit guides. And I've just started it a few months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I still don't feel anything.
Okay. Well, my curiosity is, do you identify as having intuitive knowing, those kind of intuitive hit kind of things? Or is it just more of the empathy? I feel people's things.
Just more of the empathy.
Okay. So usually in order to sense in guides, so if we imagine let's see here. So for instance, in our world and we're walking around, most humans can see the same kind of light. They see the same frequencies really because of how our body processes. However, if we were to jump into a butterfly sort of space, they can see ultraviolet light, right? They can see this way higher spectrum of what's actually happening in our world. And so from what I've sort of discovered, even talking with my guides, is that spirit guides really exist kind of on a high frequency. And so when they're trying to connect sort of our work and our practice, especially, and this is how sensitivity helps, our bodies are kind of like a Wi-Fi station. We can pick up different channels and things like that. And if we imagine that spirit guides, they come in at a really high channel and they're moving really, really fast. It's almost like if you imagine how when water moves really fast, it turns into steam, and it would slow, it turns into ice. In a way, in order to really pick up a lot of those signals, a lot of times we have to be really, really clear. And a lot of times the energy comes in kind of at a faster sort of rate in a way. And a lot of times spirit, especially the respectful kind, always works through the right brain. It always works through images. It works through some of these weird synchronicities, things like certain numbers or animals or pictures or colors. A lot of times if folks are trying to connect with their spirit guides, a lot of times I'll guide them into kind of going inward and almost painting and wrapping themselves in their favorite color, because these nourishing frequencies, they bring in higher frequencies sort of in. So spirit guides are typically there. And I think a lot of people get annoyed because they're like, well, if they're there, like, why am I not hearing it, or why am I not connecting it? But
Yeah.
we're such busy humans. I'm trying to picture your life, right? You're getting up early, you're working with clients, you're running around, mom, I don't know where my shoes are, right? Like all this stuff.
Yeah.
So for you to have the space to just be totally clear, it takes a lot of work for you to just have your own energy. And so sometimes it takes a lot of clearing out sort of practice before they start coming in. And a lot of times too, what I've seen with guides in a way is they come in again on our favorite things. They come in through the right brain in a way. So I'd be curious to see how you sort of bring it in a way, because a lot of the times it'll feel, a lot of my folks that are looking to connect with guides, we want it to be visual. We want this like, like this like angelic gold, beautiful singing thing, to sort
Right.
of,
Yeah.
yeah. But sometimes it first comes in on your sensing. It's almost like when you sit and if you say, I'm hoping a guide comes in, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, it feels like there's something to my right. I can't see it, but it's almost like a heaviness, or there's like a warmth or like a glow. A lot of times it'll come in on your sensations first, and then it builds over time. But I actually have, it's funny that you mentioned it. I have a brand new course that I just created called Root Energy Medicine. And it's a whole 6-week course about how to access that. But the 4th one, we actually bring in your healing guide. We actually bring in a healing master, but we learn 3 weeks of different energy tools to clear out your space or your Wi-Fi station, basically, so you can hear that frequency better. So
that's
myself
cool.
away. Lots of information there, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to look into that course. So how did you, or when did you realize you were psychic?
So I don't know if I ever used the word psychic personally. I always thought I was just afraid of everything for a long time, to be honest. I think probably in my late teens, I started realizing like, oh, what I'm sensing is actually real. And so I grew up in a household where I would, I could barely sleep at night. There were footsteps, there were whispers. I could see people standing in corners. I mean, it was very, very like ghost-like sort of in a way. And I used to apologize to people all the time because I could feel and sense into their mood shifts. And my parents are very, again, grit Minnesota, and they'd be like, why are you so sensitive? Like, this is not a big deal. So with a lot of shame, I really shut those abilities down. Like if you're a kid and you're 12 and you see someone in the corner of your room, you just keep telling yourself it's not real. Why are you seeing this? Why are you so afraid? You kind of shame yourself into shutting that down. So for a long time, I really shut it down. And when I was 15, I actually had a really crazy experience where I was sitting on my bed, and I was really nerdy, loved reading books, still am, but I was sitting on my bed reading a book. And I set the book down, and cell phones at that time were just coming out, where teenagers could have cell phones at that point. And these pages in a book, almost like a wind kicked up, started flying like back and forth in the book. And instantly my ego, right, my left brain was like, that can't happen. That's not real. That's absolutely not real. And I set the book down, and I was like, maybe my phone vibrated under the book and like made something happen. You're trying to make sense of this thing. And I looked over at my nightstand, and there's, my phone sitting there. It's 2 a.m. and I'm like, what's wrong with this book? And so I pick it up in my hands, and then the pages go even more crazy, and it scared me. And I dropped the book, and I closed my eyes, and I completely fell against my bed, and I lost control of my body, and a spirit inside my head started talking to me. And I was like, nope. Nope, we are not doing that. Nope. I just kept saying over and over, and it took me years to realize what I was saying, but I just kept saying over and over, I'm not ready. I kept saying over and over again. So the past, what is it now? I'm in my 30s. What is it, like 15, 17 years? That whole process since then has been, how do I have choice around what I see and sense? How do I talk with different spirits? How do I have better energetic boundaries in a way? So the whole healing process has really, that was the catalyst, but I didn't consider myself psychic then, because psychic feels a lot more empowered. I just felt very vulnerable, actually. So I work with a lot of psychic kids that see all those things, and and stuff like that, but feel really disempowered in it. I didn't really have that support until later on in life. So a lot of the things that I offer, like the blogs, the podcasts, all these people that I work with, I'm trying to give folks what I didn't have really at that time, especially the teenagers, man. It's a rough road if that's your abilities. So
Yeah. You kind of mentioned your boundaries. But does this ever happen? Like you're out, shopping or something and you see something on someone else you don't know, or because you have such boundaries that doesn't happen unless they come to you?
yeah, I mean, even so yesterday, I have two dear friends that are also very psychic, and we went out to breakfast, and there was a man, we were sitting outside, and clearly he was not regulated in his space. He had a hospital band on and was walking around and didn't seem sober in a way. So, but he came and just stared at us at the table. And my friend was just like, ooh, okay, what do we do here? And I could see different kind of foreign energy in his space that he had picked up, things he was going through. And my friend and I talked, and I was like, he really needs water. And my friend was really gracious and decided to buy him a meal so he could sit down and he could regulate his space and things like that. So I pick up on things that people are carrying around. But when I was younger, I was just overwhelmed by it. And now I have a lot of tools around kind of almost like putting a coat on in a way. I sort of put a coat on and I take it off and on, because if it was on all the time, it would be kind of like a lighthouse, kind of like a moth being drawn to energy, sort of in a way. So I try not to be overly psychic, because then I would see a lot of stuff in the environment. And if I'm doing a therapy session, I don't know if I want to see, like something else coming in and stuff like that. Just staying focused. It's taken a lot of work to really be able to have a lot of choice over it. Yeah.
Yeah. How can someone work on becoming psychic, or it's just something you're born with?
Good question. So I wish I had one of those megaphone things so that everyone could totally hear this in like a not obnoxious way, but everyone is so psychic, because psychic is a form of clairvoyance, and clairvoyance just means clear seeing. It just means being able to see things clearly. In order to see things clearly, we have to get neutral. So much of us grow up with, this is good, this is bad. Like a lot of people will ask me, how come cameras can capture energies, right? You take a picture and all of a sudden there's an orb or there's things like that, but we can't see it. And it's like, the camera's neutral. The camera doesn't care if it sees it or if it doesn't see it. But we have certain ideas or ways that our reality happens. Like I wear rings all the time, and I can't tell you how many times I run around looking for my rings and they're on my fingers because of sensory adaptation. Your body decides not to sense certain things because it realizes it's not a threat. So it doesn't pick up on subtleties, kind of where the newness sort of wears off in a way. So everyone is psychic and has the ability to totally open up to those things. Some people are born with that Wi-Fi station a little bit more expanded, but any Wi-Fi station can tap into certain frequencies. But I really believe it's important, if you want to be more psychic and have those abilities, that it's really rooted in and safe in the body. And that's where my psychology and being very trauma informed comes in, because to open yourself up to these higher frequencies, it can bring in a lot of doubt, mistrust. I don't trust myself. And if we have trauma where someone said, you can't trust yourself, it's really hard to see those things because you're always wondering if it's true or not. And it completely dissolves the ability to see in neutrality, really. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I ask all my guests this. Do you have a morning or night routine or something you do to practice self-care?
Ooh, I love that you ask everyone this, because there's so many cool ideas that people can build on. Oh man, my practice. So I really live from root medicine practices. And those are things that I've studied different forms of psychic mediumship, shamanism, my own sort of Nordic ancestry, things like that. And through all of that, I have really cool guides that come in as well. And a lot of what I do is called root energy medicine practices. And it's a very specific set of grounding certain energies out, really bringing in certain earth energies, bringing in cosmic energies. I send with deep love and care. If I learned a long time ago how to see the energy in my space. So if I'm going into my kind of center of headspace and say my mom's in there, we have an amazing relationship, but we are always in each other's spaces. And so I kind of take her energy and I imagine putting it in a rose and I give it a really deep kind of blessing sense of care and I send it back to her. So there's this way that I send love and care to the energy that's in my space. I call myself.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of it's energy medicine tools. And what I use is what I teach to people as well. So that's all of the kind of homegrown, right? I do what I teach basically to people, but a lot of that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Where can everyone, all the listeners, find you and work with you?
Oh, yeah. So my website is soulessencewellnesscenter.com. And I have a really amazing team of people that help me on the social media front. I think I have a TikTok. I don't look at it very often. But my assistant is amazing at posting things on there. But I have an Instagram, which is Soul Essence Center. I have a podcast called Soul Essence Center as well, where I do talk about a lot of psychology-based topics and the intersection sort of there as well. And what else was I going to say? Oh, if there's some folks that really want to try practicing energy work and they don't really know where to start. And so on my social media, the Instagram Soul Essence Center, there's a free heart chakra sort of meditation where people can really, especially right now, really dive into that heart space and kind of clear some energy out, because the heart really knows a lot about purpose and who we really are as a soul. So it's a really sweet, healing free. You can download it, put in your iTunes, do whatever you want with it, but it's a really just sweet, free thing that people can have too. So yeah, listeners can feel free to go there if they want to practice that as well. Yeah.
I will leave this all in the show notes too, where they can find you and everything. And I am going to be looking into things myself with you. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me. And this was so enlightening. So you made me, like, even just talking with you, like, made me more calm. I feel like just your presence is so nice. So thank you.
Oh man. Thank you for having me on, Nikki. It's such sweet stuff. And I love what you're doing. And thanks for bringing your medicine into the world. It's big stuff.
Oh, thank you.